Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. Is America's partnership with its allies in Europe, is NATO going to be permanently damaged if former President Trump becomes the president again? And that is the subject of this episode of Ignition Time. Now, for our viewers and subscribers, the NATO is a North Atlantic Treaty Organization, also called the North Atlantic Alliance, which is an intergovernmental military alliance between 30 member states, 28 of which are in Europe and 2 are in North America, including America and Canada. And that is what NATO is. In fact, Casey Hunt, who's the anchor of The Source with Casey Hunt, actually spoke with Mitt Romney, who's a U.S. Senator from the Republican state of Utah, and she specifically asked him about former President Trump and how he actually frayed and disrupted the NATO alliance, basically saying everybody should go their separate way. And Mitt Romney actually told Casey Hunt that NATO would be permanently damaged if Trump is elected president again. He said this, and watch this video closely, watch this clip closely. He said this towards the end. Our allies would rethink whether they can count on the United States to lead NATO and defend other nations. It's a pretty significant comment. In fact, he specifically said this: if President Trump were to return as president, that the nations of the world would say that they have to really rethink their own national security and the extent to which they want to be allied with us and instead be allied with someone else. Pretty incredible, folks. Let's roll the tape and see this video clip featuring Republican Senator Mitt Romney as he was speaking with Casey Hunt from The Source with Casey Hunt. Let's roll the tape and watch.
Do you think that the former President Donald Trump permanently damaged NATO?
Well, I think what's happened in NATO is that they have said, can we rely on the U.S.? And is this America First idea, which is the president saying to everybody, hey, go off and do your own thing. I think that approach is one that frightens other members of NATO, and they wonder, are we committed to NATO and to our mutual defense, or are we all going to go off on our own? And so they wonder.
Are they ever going to get over that, do you think?
Well, they wonder whether we're going to return to the, if you will, the policies that we've had for the last 70 years, or whether we're instead going to take the turn that Donald Trump represented. If he were to come back as the U.S. president, I think it would represent a pretty dramatic departure for the world, and they would rethink whether they can count on the United States to lead NATO and to lead other nations as they push back against China and against Russia.
So you think that the 2024 election will decide this question about permanent damage to NATO?
I think if President Trump were to return as president, that the nations of the world would say that they have to really rethink their own national security and the extent to which they want to be allied with us and instead be allied with someone else. And you saw that happen during the time President Trump was there. I've had conversations with leaders of other nations now, members of NATO, and they raise this question. We're happy to see you committed to our mutual defense, but we don't know whether you're just committed short-term or whether this is a long-term and permanent commitment. I think it's long-term and permanent.
So, folks, first of all, I want you to know that our alliance with NATO has been a centerpiece, a cornerstone of American policy over the past 70 years. Yes, you heard that right, over the past 70 years. Republican and Democratic presidents of the United States over 7 decades have sought to strengthen the alliance with NATO. Now, Donald Trump, being a disruptor, came along and pretty much changed everything. If he comes back, our allies would say, hey, it's each one for themselves, so why do we even need the United States? And this has long-term repercussions for our security and the security of the world, because we know there are dictators in the Middle East. We know there are dictators in Russia who are willing to emerge as the leaders of the new world order. And I haven't even mentioned China and North Korea. Those are a completely separate set of problems. So let me know whether you agree or disagree with Mitt Romney's comments. Let me know whether you think that the NATO alliance is critical. I can tell you that it is absolutely critical. I think the freedom and the liberty we take for granted every single day, the safety that we take for granted, which, by the way, does not exist in other parts of the world. You do not have freedom of speech to say what you want in Russia. You do not have freedom of speech to say what you want in China, in the Middle East. You certainly don't know if you're safe living in countries like the Ukraine because of what Russia is doing right now. So all the freedom of speech, all the liberties. I mean, I can't believe that, some people think it was okay to watch Will Smith commit battery on the stage at the Oscars when, all that was at stake was a bad joke. All of these things actually, I believe, reflect our ignorance to some extent as a society. And I don't say this in a bad way. I just say this because, unfortunately, this is the reality of America. I know this because I was born and raised in India, and I have the fortune, the honor, the privilege of living in America. And I can tell you that all of the things we take for granted can come crashing down very quickly if we don't work hard to safeguard them and try to stick to policies that both Democrat and Republican presidents have followed over 70 years. Now, Donald Trump may be a disruptor, but at the end of the day, we need alliances with other strong countries, even if they are far away. We need allies, because when situations like Russia attacking Ukraine emerge, we need to make sure that America demonstrates its leadership and tries to unite its NATO allies, as opposed to saying, hey, it's each one for himself, because that is not the way we move forward in the new world order. That is a very negative way. That is a very narcissistic way of looking at the world. In the end, we are all one big connected world. Now, I want to be clear. I think the Democrats take this entire concept to the extreme. And I think we need some sort of a middle ground where we look within, where we identify what's important to our nation, but at the same time, strengthen and consolidate all our relationships with our allies so that our allies can be next to us when we need them the most. We may need things from our allies in the future, and our allies may need things from us now. But at the end of the day, if we are on the same page with our allies, we can continue our leadership, our dominance, instead of being ignored, instead of being sidelined, instead of being forgotten, and instead of being a power that no longer retains its influence. And that really is the danger of extreme policies that focus on disrupting the NATO alliance. Unfortunately, that is the truth. And I think our viewers and subscribers can truly understand this and appreciate it if they've traveled abroad. If you've traveled abroad, if you've been to Europe, if you've been to other countries, you'll recognize that at the end of the day, we all function better when we are interconnected. We don't function better when we live within our own shells and when we think, hey, it's each man for himself. That is not the right way to look at things, although unfortunately, that seems to be very politically popular, because what Donald Trump did was he tapped into the anger of middle America, the anger of the common man. But unfortunately, he did that for his own purposes to try and get into power. Unfortunately, the damage to NATO could indeed be permanent. And that is exactly what Mitt Romney said. Again, let me know whether you agree or disagree with Mitt Romney's comments in the comment section below. Please click the like button. Please click subscribe. Please enable notifications. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda with Ignition Time. This right here is a little bit of information about me. You'll learn more about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. Please follow me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is ignition_time. That's ignition_time. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.